Good afternoon, or potentially good morning, or potentially a good evening to wherever you are in the world. My name is Matt Sprague, Industry Strategy Director for Local Government here at Trimble. And welcome to the webinar, Organizational Importance of Asset Lifecycle Management. Really what I'm looking and my co-presenter Carl Alexander are looking to accomplish in today's webinar, really the desired outcomes, if you will, is to create a better understanding of what exactly we mean by asset lifecycle management and why it matters. And then really to start to be like, okay, that's great. Like, can we roll out like a potential roadmap of digital transformation and how customers like yourselves can start to achieve the vision that we're laying out. And then finally, really start to learn and discuss some of the workflows that matter. And before we get going, just a couple of housekeeping items is that we will have a handful of polls that we'll be asking for participation from the attendees today. So you'll see on your GoToWebinar panel, there should be an area for answering polls, and they'll pop up during particular times of the presentation. But also, and I think more importantly, is the questions area. I want you to feel free to ask questions. We'll have plenty of time if needed at the end to answer questions. If you are like myself, I always think of questions after the fact. You'll receive a post-webinar email, and you'll be able to ask questions during that as well. And we will make sure that if myself or Carl don't have the answers, we'll be able to utilize the resources we have here at Trimble to answer any and all of your questions. All right, so enough of the preamble. Like I said before, I already introduced myself. My co-presenter will be Carl Alexander, who is a GIS subject matter expert. And after I kind of get the ball rolling, I'll be able to hand it over to him, and then he and I will both come back on screen at the end to answer any and all of your questions. So to get started, first thing I want to kind of go at is when we're talking about asset lifecycle management, let's really define what is the problem that we're looking to solve. So really the proposal that we're making here is that data is a top problem, maybe even the biggest one that you have. And by the way, I don't think it's data creation. I think it's data aggregation, data organization problems that we have, right? So in what you're seeing here is you're seeing an XY axis here, with the X being the asset life cycle, so planning, design, build, operate, and maintain. So obviously we don't have the width of those areas commensurate to the actual time in each. Otherwise, the operations and maintenance would expand way out. It would have its own 2, 3, 4 slides in terms of the amount of time that actually takes. But when we talk about an ideal state, like ideally, how should data act and move across this graph, right? Over time and we move from planning, design, build, operate, maintain, that data should move smoothly and should have good fidelity and accuracy throughout the asset's life cycle. And really what would happen is that this would increase the value of the information that you have. So I do want to kind of come back to a word that I use. This is the ideal state. There's probably many of you sitting there in your seats right now saying there's no scenario where this actually happens. And really, let's kind of like dig into that. Why doesn't that happen? So if you look at what I said before, data creation is not the problem. We hear from our customers over all the time that they're being overrun by data. So there's design documents, surveys, photos, estimates, change orders, the list can go on. And what you have is you have a result of something called dark data. So dark data is that you or the stakeholders involved in the project are creating all of these pieces of data, but oftentimes it's either terabytes of data stored on a hard drive in a closet somewhere or with a contractor that you either don't have the ability to get to or don't know how to get to it. And that problem compounds is because that exact same problem happens across every single one of your projects that you have. And then you have the data also, if you were to think about another box that kind of overlaid on top of all of this, would be our GIS data as well. So the data is not the problem, data creation, it's the organization, aggregation, and being able to utilize that data that becomes the problem. So now, when you come back to this, the reality, so if you see in yellow, it says actual state, right? This is your actual state. And again, the timeline is not correct. But what actually is happening is from stage to stage of the asset's life cycle, you actually lose some productivity because of the dark data. And essentially, it becomes easier for you to recreate the data than it is to go find it, right? So that costs more money and takes more time. All right, so that leads me, so I'm framing a problem that you may have within your organization. But I'm going to open up or ask Jill, to our producer here today, to open up the first poll question, which is, what is the bigger challenge over the life of an asset that you experience, right? So is it data continuity, like I'm saying, or is it construction closeout and handoff, stakeholder collaboration, communication, permitting, inspections, or is it something other than that? So we'd love it if you take a moment just to answer that poll. And while you're answering that, anecdotally, this is I don't want to say a great story because it's a bad story, right? So a customer of ours, Puget Sound Transit, they had I believe it was a Green Line expansion project that they took delivery at the end of the project of 10 terabytes of data on a hard drive from their vendors and suppliers. In addition to that, they also had 3 shipping containers of paper as-built sets. So they needed to be able to get this data into their enterprise asset management system so that they can efficiently manage and operate that asset over time. So they utilized 35 full-time equivalent resources over the course of 2 years to upload the data into the enterprise asset management system. And to add injury to insult, or insult to injury, sorry, I had that one backwards. At the end of the project, only 10% of that information was actually usable. So I guess I'm pushing forward my hope that data continuity comes up top of that poll. So we'll make sure we share those results with you after the webinar. So moving along, we have this problem, right? And whether it's a data problem or it's any of the ones that you may have just outlined in the poll that we just gave, the fact of the matter is that you're still creating assets, you're still managing your assets and operating those assets, and you're doing a good job with it. So why does digital transformation matter if the way that we've been doing things is continuing to work? And the reason is that we believe we're the aggregation of a bunch of different circumstances are really bringing us to a tipping point. So the tipping point is a combination of a handful of things. First, and this will come no surprise to any of you, the bipartisan infrastructure law and once in a generation type funding that's going to increase the amount of projects. So there was a Dodge data survey that showed that 85% of the owners are anticipating a significant increase in project and work order volume. With that funding and those new projects is actually coming with an additional new focus on tracking and reporting. So the compliance side of it is becoming more complex and more time consuming. And then on top of it, the elephant in the room is the labor shortages that are out there. How are you going to be able to accomplish all these new things, all of these new compliance regulations, all these new projects because of the funding when you have an aging workforce and then therefore actually higher competition for those that are not retiring. So the bottom line here is that there's a chain of circumstances that's going to be increasing the risks that the public agencies will not be able to deliver on the expectations of the new projects and the funding that's being put in place. So improving productivity through digital transformation and asset lifecycle management platform that we're proposing is now an imperative for public agencies. I'm gonna take a sip of water. I've been talking a lot. So really, next couple slides are about like, all right, we've defined the problem. What do we do? Like, what is the solution? So how are public agencies thinking about digital transformation? I love this quote here because it encapsulates the spirit of what we're trying to achieve. Bridging the gap between design, construction, operations, like no one else, and deliver outcomes you've never seen. So it's getting outside of what you're used to in raising your expectations of what is possible. So this puzzle piece here, this is really at the end, I'm jumping to the end here, and I'm going to explain how this all works together. And they're puzzle pieces, right? Because in order to have a true asset lifecycle management platform, all right, so in the middle, you can see it says O&PS. That is the sector that we've developed to bring all of our owner-specific tools together, owner and public sector. You need to have solutions that are really identifying workflows throughout the life cycle of an asset. So whether it's BIM during the planning and design phase, DPD, which is digital project delivery. This would be your project and program management software during your construct phase. And then bridging the DPD and EAM, the enterprise asset management, is obviously our GIS system of record as well, making sure that we are putting location to all of the projects we're doing and the assets that are results of those projects as we transition into operations and management. So we don't claim that the platform is a 100% functional entity today. That's what we're driving towards. That's our vision that we have. In 2021 and 2022, we really had those 4 separate puzzle pieces. And right now, we are working on connecting those into a singular platform by identifying specific workflows between each of those that will help create the efficiencies that will help define exactly how that platform comes together. And we're really looking at organizations like you to help us drive what that platform eventually becomes and the workflows that make a difference. But in order for us to really get there, we are promoting the adoption of all 4 of those pieces of the puzzle, making sure that you have a basis, right? So this next slide really kind of shows this is like the roadmap, in my opinion, right? The pyramid here. And when you look at the bottom level, this is super simplistic, right? Let's digitize, let's get rid of paper, right? So if you're still having a lot of your processes on paper, you know, that's what you need to address first off, is that can you adopt a system of record to address where those workflows, those paper workflows are occurring, right? So whether it's a work order management or whether it's a project delivery platform that helps you address those type of workflows, can we get that digitized? Then the next level here is connecting those systems of record. So we have identified those 4 puzzle pieces. And if whether or not in your individual roadmap you've gotten to 1 of them, 2 of them, 3 of them, or all 4, and also I'll take a pause in that that's not the end all be all. There are other systems of record out there, like an ERP for an example. But when we start to really connect these, we start to smooth out that data transfer, right? We don't necessarily get those dips and we get better data continuity. But when we create those systems of record and start connecting them, Then we eventually move towards that lifecycle platform. And then eventually we get to the predictive platform utilizing artificial intelligence. Before I move on, when we're talking about all these different systems of record and whatnot, we actually have a couple poll questions for you. The first one, and I'm going to end up getting this backwards, right? We're polling just to say what digital project delivery tools are you utilizing? And then the second one we're going to put up is what enterprise asset management tools do you currently utilize? And if I got it backwards, I'm sorry, I can't remember which one went first. Yeah, I got it right. Digital project delivery. So just take a moment to answer which one are there, and if we don't have one there, again, other, and you can definitely specify that in the chat or in the questions area. We'll just give that 10 seconds for you to answer, and then we can move on to the second poll question. All right, Jill, you want to move on to the second one? Oh, we actually have results. We got a lot of eBuilder, and we got some others. So any of those others, please share those in the chat and or the questions area. Now, can we put in the next poll question around the enterprise asset management? There it is. All right, cool. And we also got a Heavy City Works, and again, other, highly recommend. Please posting those in the chat just so we can kind of get an idea of what other opportunities you have, because I think that's an important piece to talk about there in terms of those 4 pieces of the puzzle, right? In that Trimble's stance on our platform strategy is that there's interoperability. It's an open modular platform that'll allow you to utilize other tools that you may have already adopted, right? So this vision that I'm promoting here today, it's not like, hey, if you don't use Trimble this, Trimble that, Trimble this, Trimble that, then it won't work, right? So perfect example is on our design piece. Many of you, in terms when it comes to civil infrastructure, are going to be utilizing Autodesk. It's perfectly fine, right? We need to make sure that as we develop the design collaboration workflows, that we're interoperable with those other pieces. So knowing what other pieces of EAM and DPD you utilize will definitely help define that roadmap for us. Okay, so my last slide before I hand it over to Carl, and this is another way of demonstrating or graphically demonstrating what the enterprise asset management is, right? So if we start from the inside out, all right, we have the concept of enterprise asset lifecycle management, sorry, ALM. And around that, you have the 4 main phases of that life cycle: design, build, operate, and maintain. So you have the DBOM life cycle. And then we're going to jump one level out to the yellow around it. What you have is you have a model-based integration that is growing in integrity as you progress throughout the life cycle. And each of that model is being grown throughout the life cycle through different pieces. So from design in terms of the survey and the progress measurement and during the build phase, as built, before it's handed over into the operate phase, eventually ends up with this digital twin that really has that continuity of data and provides the efficiencies needed to be able to manage your asset throughout its life cycle. And lastly here is just, this is kind of a little bit more of a double click down in terms of the puzzle pieces. So this is part of the functionality that our EAM, DPD, GIS, and BIM solutions have that help navigate that asset lifecycle throughout. So whether it's cost controls and inspections and work orders, risk management, planning, design collaboration, and those pieces. And my segue over to Carl is right now, it's trying to define exactly the workflows that make the most efficiency gains for our customers between all of those pieces of functionality across that asset's life cycle. So Carl's going to be able to kind of double click in a little bit more and kind of talk about, you know, what personas this makes difference to, and where, you know, and exactly some of the actual workflows that we've begun to work on. But the overarching ask from to all of you is that we need you to be a partner, right? And to carry on the conversation and connect with your Trimble account managers and sales reps and talk about, hey, this is something that I need to have done that would make a massive difference for us. Enough from me. Carl, I'm gonna hand it over to you. I'll go away until the end and happy to answer any questions anybody has at the end.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Matt. You know, as Matt mentioned at the beginning, I'm Carl Alexander, a GIS subject matter expert at Trimble, working on the CityWorks product management team. And so hopefully, you know, as Matt is sitting there, you know, really setting the stage and talking about this asset lifecycle management at a really high level, and then starting to, you know, break it down and get more granular. Hopefully some of that really starts to resonate with you of like where you're at in this whole process, because it really is a process, and everybody's starting at different spots, but hopefully, you know, trying to reach that main, you know, goal there at the end. And so, you know, Matt kind of ended up, you know, talking, you know, at least alluding to some of the applications and solutions, you know, software and hardware that we have available there. So I'm going to talk about, you know, why is that technology, why are these solutions, you know, really important as part of this ALM, you know, process here. So I love this slide. I like to use it, you know, quite a bit now, because I spent almost 20 years, you know, in the public sector with municipalities and utility, and it seemed like every time I got called into a meeting, there was a problem, or, you know, somebody was looking, you know, for a solution to something. It was always one of these personas here. They always seemed to have the same problem, and they were always looking for GIS or a business application or a solution, or even like changing a workflow to kind of fix this problem. And so these people are really kind of driving your organization, you know, for these better solutions, for these better workflows. Now, whether it is like this for better communications to try to break down the silos from different departments or different individuals, or even like different entities, are usually one of the bigger ones. Cost savings, now whether that is just in like software costs, or maybe it's in ROI of improving somebody's workflow. So something that may take you know, them an entire day, you know, being able to shrink that time down into say an hour, and being able to save them a lot of time, being able to get information easier and faster into the decision makers' hands. So your managers, so your upper leaderships, so they're not having to always call around and ask, or you know, dig around, you know, to find data or the information and the questions that they want. It's easily accessible, and they can see that. And then lastly, you know, really all this is all about improving your customers' experience. So whether that's getting them their information that they need faster, or, you know, maybe even being able to decrease the time that they might have an outage. But something that's really not talked about a lot is also improving your staff experience. So giving them a better software, a better workflow, a better solution that makes their job and their life easier, is a huge benefit and something that a lot of organizations look for. And so really to answer all these questions, and if you wanted to put like a label of a digital transformation, on that, from going to paper into software, our solutions, our workflows to really tackle all of these issues and these problems and concerns that staff have. Organizations are doing that right now, right? You're either talking with these people, or you've purchased a solution for them, or you've re-engineered some workflows. So you're starting that process of really being able to take that technology and start to utilize it, and then now let's start looking at what's next, what can we do next with that. And so we have, as you all have been really hard at researching and looking at solutions to help your staff and your organizations internally, here at Trimble and with CityWorks, we have been doing the same. So we really have been working hard to see what solutions we have, how they fit in this asset lifecycle management, and start to really make those processes and workflows available to our customers as well. And so we have with CityWorks, being that asset management and permitting solution, kind of that end to end. So from field to office to upper management, being able to pass that data back and forth. CityWorks, as a lot of you may know, just from looking from the poll there, that our existing CityWorks customers, it's extremely easy to have integrations, with CityWorks. We have a lot of customers that already do that, say with Esri, with document management systems, with CIS and billing, finance, and more. So we have the APIs available, kind of in the structure to make this really easy. And so over the past couple of years, just to highlight a couple here, we've had some Unity remote monitoring and mobile for CityWorks, on the utility side. Vegetation manager for organizations, electric organizations, to manage their power lines. Agile Assets Pavement Express with CityWorks, we're working on now to be able to help organizations who manage their roads and help them manage those better. And then here's the one with Trimble Connect for some 3D asset management workflows. And then lastly, the one we want to highlight here is eBuilder and CityWorks, and kind of this project management type of idea and solution as well. So CityWorks as being that asset management platform, so where your work is done on your assets, and year in, year out, you're managing your assets, the inspections, the work done on those, and collecting all this information. Then being able to do analysis on all that data that you've been collecting, to maybe identify your high risk assets, maintenance strategies, and then eventually coming up with a plan for replacement. And then with eBuilder as that construction project management, solution, for capital projects. And so with, these solutions, applications, there is no clear cut, throughout this whole cycle that Matt showed, this solution's here, this solution's here. There is going to be some overlap and some communication and some swapping of data that needs to happen, throughout these processes. As information is needed and communicated. And so as we are kind of working through this in this project management, we have kind of come up with this, you'll always have this common project throughout this cycle here. And so CityWorks has released OpX as a project management solution here recently, and it's just really provides this GI-centric experience for managing your large-scale infrastructure projects or even emergency response activities, within CityWorks. And you can do this just by configuring projects to consume the data for your asset management and permitting systems, and it allows you to easily monitor that full project life cycle, between multiple departments. And so it really gives you that great container and that bucket to view all the associated work activities with that project. So whether that's work orders, service requests, inspections, or permits, you can very quickly see everything associated to that project, and then all the assets that are associated with that project as well. And then as you are doing that work, you can see the cost and as that is accruing. And so there we have the CityWorks project. eBuilder has this project name as well. And so this is where that common project kind of vision and idea is. And so you have your capital project here, say in CityWorks, and then you also have that project in eBuilder. It makes it a very great way and a very simple way to pass information and data back and forth. Everybody knows a project name. You don't have a number, you have that name. You can see it, visually see it, search on it, find it, and be able to find the information that you need. And then by integrating kind of these two, it even allows you to find information, maybe from the other application without having to go into, if you're primarily an eBuilder user, without having to maybe go into CityWorks to be able to see that, and vice versa. So we have kind of picked, a few of the common workflows after talking with a lot of mutual customers. And so that project creation of where project may be started in eBuilder and then say it is approved. So your board of commission or whatever you have say approves that project, you could have that go ahead and create that project in OpEx, pass information, back and forth as things are happening, say like status or budget information. And be able to quickly, be able to see, the data from the other applications that you would want without having to open them both up. Cost is a huge thing. So as say cost accrues on that OpEx project in CityWorks, so work orders are getting created, they're getting updated, and your staff's adding your equipment, your labor, the material as they're completing that. We're accruing that, being able to send that back and update that in the eBuilder, instead of having to do financial reports out of CityWorks, being able to pass all that financial information automatically and let that kind of accrue. And then last is for a very simple, thought process here is say an RFI, so a request for information. So as kind of talked about, there's not that very hard cut, like this solution is just for this process. So there's going to be some back and forth. So say you're doing a capital project here and you need somebody out in the field to verify the material and the diameter of the main. So you could create that process in eBuilder, have that automatically go to somebody out in the field as a service request. It would show up in their work and the application they're used to using all the time. They could complete that work and then it send that information right back into eBuilder. So the applications that people are used to using, they can stay in, be able to easily communicate, not have to do phone calls, emails, and paper like that. So just to maybe highlight really quickly what that might look like. So here in eBuilder, if you can see up the top, this is say an example for like a lead service line replacement. So this is something that a lot of utilities are going through right now is your lead service line replacement. So let's just say somebody needs to see some information, and they want to request it. So just like that, I need to verify that this diameter of this main, can you do that for me? So we'll just go ahead and type in. So for the details, request of information, you could add as much here as you wanted to or needed that you wanted to pass back and forth. But here we'll just pick that as that service request type is just the request for information. You can do a lot of different ones as well. And so that's got created, and now we're in the process of kicking this off and creating that service request here inside CityWorks. So successfully created. We'll see that number 30 right there that we created, and we'll go ahead and hop here into CityWorks. And so I'm gonna open up this RFI dashboard, and we'll go ahead and refresh. And you can see that that is created there, that request for information. We'll go ahead and open that up. So that field staff that were using this dashboard here would see that they needed that, could go ahead, open it up, see some of the information, who, what they need, go ahead and fill and complete this out. And then when they close this, it would send back the information that they needed. So really minimizing, email communication or, maybe phone calls or text messages, being able to track exactly, what was captured for later on if they needed to see, go back and kind of see what the data and information was there. And so we'll open this process back up that was created, and you'll see, the status changed here inside the eBuilder on that process. So just kind of wrap up here. So, a lot of benefits to integrated workflows, integrated solutions, but really that number one is that connecting all these different departments, at an organization level based on that project, that really streamlines all the information gathering, all the data, as it needs to go back and forth, and also allows the users to just do their job in their application that they like using, that they use all the time, and really maximizing your investment on all these solutions that you have. So costing roll up, and then lastly, that spatial integration of projects, and associated activities. So CityWorks being built on top of GIS, all of our projects are going to have that XY, that spatial, and then also all the associated work activities. So all the work orders there. So you could share that out into a map. You could share it out into a dashboard, to your upper leadership, to other managers as well. I've seen a lot of organizations who have capital project maps on their websites. That's just a very static PDF document that staff have to keep manually updating, every quarter, every year. Being able to utilize this spatial integration, with this project's information, out of CityWorks, that could be all dynamic in real time. It can be shared out, throughout your organization as well. So lastly, City of Raleigh has done a really good job at, really embracing this idea, embracing this vision. There's a couple webinars out there with CityWorks and eBuilder staff and Chad Foley from the City of Raleigh, really talking about that, where they're at now, why they're doing this, and where they like to go to the future. Please, search for those on the website and find those if you want to get some more information, a little more granular kind of in this process.
Carl, we had a question for you.
Okay.
So there was a question going back, I think, to the eBuilder and CityWorks integration. The question is, can you still submit a service request via eBuilder if the project has already been completed or closed?
I would think it would depend, and I don't know which direction they're wanting to go. Is this like yes, or would you want to make it not? But I would say either way would work. So if you wanted a closed project and not want somebody to go back in and submit something, then you could do that. If you wanted to say yes, it's been closed, but I need somebody to go verify something, then I would believe that you could do those both ways.
So it's a choose your own ending.
Yeah, very configurable solutions. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes, there were a few other questions that were able to be answered via chat. They were particular to a particular customer. But as I mentioned before, if anybody has additional questions, you can ask them in follow-up to the webinar. So you should be receiving a post-webinar communication. You should feel free to reach out to us, or if you're an existing customer, reaching out to your account manager and asking them, and we'll be happy to facilitate the answers to any and all of those questions. Oh, one just snuck in. All right, we'll get this one in. So some of the graphics looked like ArcGIS portal dashboards. Are they using direct calls to the SQL tables, or is there another way?
So we're gonna be built on, I'm guessing most of everything that you've seen that mapping wise is going to be using map or feature services or even web maps with that. So all API driven, even if we're trying to update GIS ideally, it's all that the REST endpoints, feature services, map, all service based. Yep.
All right, we got a bunch that came in, and
Okay.
so I'm going to keep rifling
Fire away.
With CityWorks, do you have to build an asset hierarchy before collecting or defining an asset?
I don't think, I guess yeah, when you talk about GIS and asset management, it's going to always be like, depending on your workflow and configurations. Most organizations start out at that main level. They don't really kind of build that detailed hierarchy initially and kind of add on to it. But if you want to get really granular and have that hierarchy as you're managing your assets, so an example might be like, you might start out with a pump station, and then a year from now, well, we're going to build that hierarchy with the pumps with that, and then okay, we want to get more granular. Let's do our motors. Now you can start doing that all at once if you wanted to, but you don't have to do that as long as it's in GIS, whether that's the feature or related tables, then you should be fine.
So I think the answer to the next question is still like the choose your own ending, highly configurable, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just in case it's different.
Yeah.
In the example, when the work order is completed in CityWorks, can the process remain open in eBuilder rather than have to filter for a closed one?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and say that, yeah. So that was just the process that we initially, when we did this proof of concept, but I believe that can be done. Yeah.
Okay. And then the question here: will we be able to collaborate on the sites like Stack Exchange, or does the NDA prevent that? I guess I think I need further detail on that question. I don't know if that resonates with you or not, Carl.
Not a lot. I know that we have like our inside, like mycityworks.com, where there are a lot of collaboration with customers happen. I don't know if it's as detailed as say a Stack Exchange, but there's a lot of information and a lot of kind of like developer type stuff, webhooks, data, things like that people share there as well. So that's a good place, I think, at least on our end, to do that.
Check there.
Yeah.
Okay. So last question. I have clients where they and I are using CityWorks. This person said, I'm not a CityWorks partner. How can I get to CityWorks online forums?
You would have to reach out to our partner team probably and go through that. So Bruce Jumper, or I believe something, probably just request for information through the website to go through that and process and work with them to get that.
Cool. All right. Well, we exhausted all the questions. I love how particular they were. Very, very specific questions are good. There's definite interest in there. So Carl, I thank you for your time. Everybody for attending, thank you so much. I believe there is a post-webinar poll that will be either opened up or sent out before you log off. Please love it if you have the opportunity to fill that out. And again, if there is additional question or additional clarification, please reach out to us. We will be happy to answer any and all.
Yes.
Thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you soon.